Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio, listener-supported radio, where no topic is taboo. And we're brought to you by Revolution Radio, which is also listener-supported, where information never sleeps. And, I was looking at the donation meter down here earlier, and it looks like y'all got a half the month's goal up there already. You're doing a nice job. I'd like to encourage people to continue. You help keep the show on the air. You help it grow and get bigger. And you help keep the advertisers out. So we all working this together to keep it going together. Thanks a bunch, everybody. Also, I appear to be having some difficulty getting my guest on the phone today. I've called her number 3 times and got her answering machine 3 times, so I'm fixing to try again in a minute. Before I do, I just wanted to mention real quick that, as everybody knows, my health kind of went south forever 2 Christmases ago. However, there have been some improvements recently that I think will make a big difference. I mean, there's not going to be any cure. I'm going to end up dying early in life. But having said that, I think we might be able to cut down these hospital trips a lot more. I've recently got a air purifier, which is to help keep me from getting any more infections or anything inflaming my airways or lungs. I got a CPAP, which is supposed to help me drain some of this stuff while I'm asleep at night. I've started getting some over-the-counter antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, antibiotic medicine that, apothecary type, the holistic stuff. And on top of that, I've been using the Colloidal Silver. The last time I was like 2 weeks out before I had to go in. Today makes 2 weeks for this time. So anything after this shows an improvement. So we're going to hang in there. We're going to keep trying to bring you the show and try not to have any more of that dead air time. Say a prayer for me that we can keep this going. Let me try to give the guest a call real quick.
Hi, you've reached Beth Shaw, and I'm not available to take your call. I don't check this line very often, so email me at Beth.
Well, I guess that's not going to work, at least not yet. I also sent an email to her publicist and asked if there was another number. Let's see if she's replied back. I'm going to give her publicist my number. She seems to be having some difficulty reaching her too, but she's going to try to reach her and have her call me. Make sure I'm giving her the right number. Yep, 832-632. All right. Maybe she'll call me in a few minutes. All right, let's wait and see what happens. Now, in the meantime, I've got quite a bit going on in the near future. I've been busy since I've been home from the hospital. Give y'all some kind of idea what I got going on here. Today was supposed to be Yoga Lean with Beth Shaw, and we can still do that if she can call in. This might be her now, folks. Hello, Beth?
Hello.
Oh, hey, is Beth there?
No, this is Doc Who.
Oh! Doc, I am sorry. I just assumed that it was her trying to call me from that email I just sent. I didn't know it was you.
Well, now you know.
Now I got my foot stuck in my mouth.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, I'll give her the right of way if she calls in.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if she does. Well, is your number, well, I don't want to say that live here.
352 is the prefix.
Yeah, that's the same one. It was just lighting up over here. But I got you on the air live now. Alrighty, like I was saying, me and her was going to discuss her newest book, Yoga Lean, and still might, or if she does call in. Also, I mentioned to you in the chat room that Terrell might be joining us. When I mentioned to him that I already talked to you, he said to go ahead and just discuss everything with you, that he'd catch up with me at a later date because he was busy anyway.
Well,
so
far out. There are no coincidences.
That's what I've been told. I didn't prepare anything for this show, so I might have to figure out where do we want to go with this show. What are some of the topics you're really familiar with?
Well, as far as topics, the sky's the limit.
So you pretty much well studied on UFOs, ghosts, or ESP, or anything else for that matter?
Paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
Shapeshifters, all that stuff, yeah.
Come to think of it, I've had guests that I've touched bases with that talked about shapeshifters a little bit, but I've never actually done a show on it. And I know that as far as my knowledge goes, I would call David Icke the pioneer of the shapeshifter. Him or John Rhodes or the both of them. I'm not sure if you know somebody going further back than them two, but I know that they've been really prominent on it, in other words.
Yeah, they're riding point, as they say.
Now, I don't know about you. I'm assuming you've checked out David Icke's work. I know I have. I've listened to a lot of his videos, and the man does
me too.
Some very impressive material. He's done some impressive research, and he makes a lot of sense, at least right up till he gets to the part where he talks about the Royals morphing. And I can't swear that that's not possible, but it's just not the sort of thing we see in the dining room at the table every day.
No. That's for sure.
So
one thing that David Icke says is, remember who you are. Have you heard him say that?
I don't remember it, but I haven't heard him in 2 or 3 years.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that gives me an idea.
Well, I used to listen to him pretty regular, but once you got past all his material, nothing was new.
Yeah. But remembering who you are has to do with remembering who you are, because we're going to be invaded. We've already started being invaded psychologically, electronically, and all of that stuff. It's like electronic harassment and mood changes, and when you connect all the dots with the cell towers and the cell phones, the Wi-Fi, the smart meters, the satellites, they've got it pretty much all covered, and they can change the mood of an entire metropolitan city with one implement, or a network of implements.
Interesting you should bring this up. I just finished a book by Marie Jones and Larry Flaxman called Mind Wars, and they talk about this very thing, amongst other forms of mental manipulation. This is part of what they covered in some of their chapters, and in fact, they have shown that this is going on at present time, unaware to most people.
Oh, yeah. Well, back in the 70s, I can't think of his name right now out of the top of my head, but Silent Weapons for Silent Wars.
That sounds kind of vaguely familiar.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. I mean, and I think his stuff is still on the internet. Right now, if I think of it later, or shortly, or whatever, I'll bring it up. But I just can't think of it right now.
Well, I do know that they do have the ability to cause somebody to actually kill themselves or somebody else without even knowing why they did it later. Maybe not even remember doing it at all.
That's right. That's correct. That is correct. Absolutely.
I recently did a show with Nick Redfern. We talked about his book, Close Encounters of the Fatal Kind, and it shows in there where some of these devices may have been used on people that were found jumped out of a window.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's the way they did the bankers. I think it was about 75 of them that supposedly suicided themselves.
How do you get 75 bankers to jump to their death or kill themselves, and nobody be able to get a message that that's too many to be an accident?
Yeah, no coincidence. They
could have been too many to be suicide. Too. Not everybody in a room is going to say, "Hey, I don't want to live anymore right here and now."
Yeah, you connect the dots, and you come up with what's wrong with this picture.
Exactly.
And now I do have a picture, and I see what's wrong with it. I mean, they all could have been thrown off, as far as that goes.
or their minds could have manipulated them into with that device. You know, it wasn't long ago that Jesse Ventura did a show about this kind of device on that conspiracy show he used to do, and he actually had one of these devices in his hand. It looked like a sort of like a handheld satellite dish.
Mm-hmm.
You remember
I
that
didn't see
show, or
that.
did you see it?
No, I didn't see that show. I watch very little television, almost none.
Pretty much the same here, except what I watch to spend time with my wife.
Yeah.
And then I read while we're watching it, so I don't, give it my full attention.
Well, you don't have to. It's still getting you. It's still zapping you.
Yeah, that was something else Marie mentioned in her book, was that how the TV is zapping you. I mean, do we really know that they're not still using subliminal messages in the TV shows just because they said they weren't?
Oh, shoot. They lie.
Yeah.
They lie. They're the biggest liars in the universe. And you know who the father of all lies is.
This may be the guest calling in now.
Okay.
Is this Beth?
This is Beth.
Okay, I've been trying to reach you there a couple of times and got your answering machine. Hey, Doc, I'm still going to need you at 2 o'clock when we get to the halfway mark in the show. So I guess hang around the chat room and call me back, or I'll see if I still got you on my Skype list. I'll try to call you back.
Oh, so what has that been, 45 minutes?
Yeah, that's going to be 45 minutes.
I'll call you back in 45 minutes.
Oh.
Thank you so much. Okay, great.
Doc, you still there?
I'm here.
Well, I guess we're going to flip-flop then. She's going to call me in 45 minutes. I'm still going to do you.
Well, that was kind of her.
I think she might have misunderstood. I'm not sure. But
Well, she probably wants the whole hour, but that's okay.
actually, that probably could be.
She probably needs more than an hour. Like most shows, 2 hours is not enough.
Well, I actually offered her 2 hours, but her publicist said that she could only do an hour. Although I have had guests that have went for 2 hours. Oh, actually, I've had them here at Revolution Radio, so you probably remember a few of them. Matter of fact, Georgia Love was 2 hours, I think, for that matter.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Doc. Do you have a website or anything that you're using to put out information that you've been learning?
No, I don't have a website. Not at this point. I'm already on the red list as it is.
Red list?
Yeah, the government's kill list.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay.
Hey, I'm a veteran.
I never heard it called a kill list before, but a red list. But I know what you're talking about now. I understand. Yeah, I did hear that they do have a list of people that are on this type of a list, and they're being classified as terrorist suspects.
Yeah.
Which is basically an excuse to get them before they talk too much.
Well, Obama calls the founding fathers terrorists.
I don't remember hearing that. When did he do it, and in what context?
Oh, it hadn't been that long ago. It's been within the last year, I think. In the context that the Constitution is just like George Jr. says, just a doggone piece of paper.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of people in public office today that do not give the proper respect or credit to the Constitution that they should, that it was meant to have. But then look what what's happening to America when they're doing it. Everything's going to pot.
Yeah, well, they're the service to self group. We on Revolution Radio and a lot of other channels on the internet are service to others, and those are the two basic classifications: those who seek the truth, and then those who buy the lie.
There's a guest I'm working on getting on my show. Hopefully this one, if I can. That has a new book out. I think it was In God We Trust by Kevin Cruz, if I remember correctly. And he goes into detail about how the church and state was never meant to be the same. That it was meant to be separate from the very beginning in his book, and lists all the evidence for it. And are you by any chance? Oh, One Nation Under God was the name of the book. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Are you familiar with the fact that in all honesty, there was never supposed to be a joining of church and state back when America was first founded?
Yeah.
Okay, so not everybody's aware of that. Most people think that, well, okay, most of people that go to church, and I live in the Bible Belt, my whole family goes to church. I hear it a lot. Say that the founding fathers came over here and founded America to be free to worship God. And in all honesty, they're leaving a whole slew of information off. Like, for example,
That's right.
It wasn't so much worshiping God, but worshiping God the way they wanted to, that the mother church would not allow. They made it sound like atheists and pagans run them off. In other words, that Christianity wasn't allowed, or, I mean, they didn't come out and say it that way, but to hear them tell it, that's what you would, the picture you would draw, in other words.
Right.
But when you go into researching it, you find out that the Protestants had a big falling out with the Catholics, and they had big wars over it, and eventually they came over here so they could worship what they believed and not what the mother church believed. But it was really a case of Christianity running out Christianity, not pagans.
Well, a lot of Christians, so-called Christians, or people that believe they're Christians, are in fact pagans, and they don't even know it. You know, that's the people that are not awake to what's going on.
Uh-oh.
The Catholic Church blueprint came from Babylon.
It sounds to me an awful lot like you have learned some of the same things I've learned, like the fact being the Catholic Church is really nothing but sun worship, and in all honesty, today's Protestant movement is also sun worship, but today's movement doesn't know their sun worship.
No, they don't know. They have no clue. They're being deceived.
They bought it hook, line, and sinker because they refused to look at history. They wanted to make the Bible the final word, and anything that's in historical records does not agree with the Bible. History's lying. And I've actually heard them say that from the pulpit.
Well, most pulpits have been compromised anyway. They employ or place, just like they place people in supposedly elected offices. They place pastors and priests or whatever they call them, preachers, with semi or retired Masons, people that are Saturn worshipers. That's one of my hot topics. I don't know if you heard Zen Garcia last night.
No, I didn't get to catch a show, but I do know him. I am familiar with his research. Very familiar.
Yeah. Well, we had, or I say we, I recommended it to him to get Troy McLaughlin on as a guest, and he's in England, and he agreed to come on. He came on last night, and he's talks about the Saturn death cult. He wrote a book on it, you know, and you can go to the Saturn death cult and see his work. And he talks about how the planets got shifted around during the purple haze days when our sun was well back in our universe here, and Saturn was our primary sun, which is a I can't think of what you call it. The star that's dim. There's a term for it. I can't think of it.
Now you're talking about a time before, way before Genesis, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, Saturn was our sun, and it was just a purple haze, and there was no night and day. It was just, you know, you could see, but it was kind of dim, like twilight, and all the creatures were very large, including the dragonfly and everything else. They were very large creatures, and there was no rain, no weather, except for a cool mist constantly, which watered everything constantly, just right. And then when God said, "Let there be light," that's when the planets changed places. And it may have been that Nibiru came through and assisted in the shift of the planetary alignments and order.
Yeah, that is a possibility. In fact, when Sitchin writes about Nibiru, he talks about how the passing of Nibiru, actually more like Gingfu, I think it was called the moon of Nibiru, the gravity from it was pulling planets out of their current orbit into a different orbit, or a slightly different orbit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is describing about what you're talking about now, if you ask me.
Right. And there was a plasma bridge from Saturn to the Earth, and entities could travel through, go back and forth from Saturn to the Earth on this plasma bridge. And that's one of the aims of the Hadron Super Collider, is to build a plasma bridge to Saturn the way it used to be, because Saturn is the ruler of time and space in this universe, and they want to make that connection again. We do have an auditory connection to Saturn. One of the rings evidently is all crystals, which are a transmitter, and on Dr. A. Truott on Friday nights, he goes into a lot of this stuff. He's a frequency freak. You know, he doesn't. He's like me. I don't listen to any, and neither does he, anything that's not tuned to A432 hertz, because A440 hertz is a discord to your body and to nature. And Rockefeller and Hitler and Goebbels made it go worldwide with the A440 concert tuning to A440 hertz, and it's in opposition to the way we should vibrate. So therefore, everyone is somewhat sickly because of that. And when they added fluoride to 440 hertz, doing the two double team, then it calcifies your pineal gland and just keeps your blood, every cell in your body, in chaos. And then I sleep with 432 hertz music all night. There's a bunch of websites that they'll just keep going from one song to the next on the internet, and all in tuned to A432 hertz. And you can repair your DNA while you sleep. And then you add shungite to the mix, along with 432 hertz, which is a frequency modulator. You know about shungite? I should ask.
No, I don't.
Okay, it's cosmicreality.net. I wear a shungite necklace. It's a very powerful stone, and it modifies the frequency, all of the harmful frequencies that we're soaking up like SpongeBob. You know, it's just we're inundated with this stuff, and it modifies the frequency, and it changes the rotation of the toroidal frequencies from counterclockwise to clockwise, which is non-polluting, which is keeping stuff out of you that's destroying us. I say you, I mean us, all of us. And you can put a shungite Band-Aid on, and I think they're like $3 a piece, and you want to get a bunch of them, actually. You want to put a Band-Aid on your Wi-Fi unit, on your computer, on your cell phones, on your handheld cordless phones in the house. You put one Band-Aid on the base and one on your handheld phone, which I've got right now, and you're not being polluted. You know, you're not being destroyed, per se.
I know that your body's DNA, everything about you, me, the animals, the plants, the trees, is energy at one vibration or another. As such, frequency does have the ability to alter any of that I just mentioned, which would, make what you're talking about a good possibility if somebody understood the science for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea.
Well, that's what I'm doing, is understanding the science. That's what I'm doing, and I sleep like a baby, except for when I got to pee about 5 times a night.
WTMI. Unless somebody's thirsty.
Yeah, I hate those dreams about waterfalls and stuff.
Oh, really? I never had one of those. Mine were always running off a cliff.
Oh, nice. I hope it's not with a whole herd of sheep. That you're running off the cliff with a herd of sheep. I hope not.
Okay, now everybody knows who to call in at if they got any questions for you. So, how long have you been studying this stuff now, Doc?
Well, I finally got a computer about 6 years ago. I never had one before, my wife was first in on getting her computer, and I would use it, occasionally. She'd let me use it, and about all I was limited to when I started was a little game that you push one of the directional buttons, and the pimento would shoot out of the olive. If you aimed it right, you'd hit a cauliflower or a tomato or something, and they'd fall. But once I got out of the little mini game thing, I got a computer for myself that somebody gave me. It was a pretty old one, and it had Patrick the starfish from SpongeBob on decal on it, which I identified with. And then I got online, and Alex Jones did the most to wake me up. I mean, that was when you first get on, where do you go? And you find InfoWars pretty easily. And then I went on from there to all kinds of stuff, investigating in depth the topics that we really need to be aware of if we're going to, have a chance at survival. You know your enemy. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
That's what I've heard tell. I know there have been those out there that questioned Alex Jones's motives and his intent and his loyalty. I can't say much. I don't know the man well enough to say much of anything. But then, too, they've also questioned David Icke's sanity.
Sure, it's because they don't understand. And I'm not saying Ike or Jones are perfect or that they don't have some social obligations by way of family or something that keeps them from talking about certain subjects, just like in the Brotherhood of the Masonic Orders, I just watched a film this morning, a movie that was made in 1934 about the Masonic Order. Pretty interesting. Black and white, of course. Not very long.
Well, I know that I think it's David Icke and Alex Jones preach that may not be the right word, but I'll use the word preach. The Freemasons are the actual Illuminati. Quite frankly, I think they're a little bit off on that one. From what I've been able to ascertain through my study, is that basically the Illuminati has infiltrated the Freemasons, the Catholic Church, the Protestant movement, and all of them, in other words.
I agree. Yeah, the Bavarian Illuminati, they're a nasty group, and the front porch Masons are, generally speaking, good people, and they're very helpful. We got the Shriners Hospital, and the thing I don't care about Shriners.
Another thing about this is the Illuminati, what they do is they go up there and they infiltrate the higher echelons. They don't just come in there and infiltrate any given Catholic church. They infiltrate the Vatican. They get the one that's over all the other locations. So what happens is the people in the actual churches themselves, right down to the pastors, are really sheep that are just spreading a message they've been taught to spread and don't know any better.
Yep, that's right.
And the only people that really know is the higher-ups in the Illuminati that are pulling all the strings.
Yep, puppet masters.
Right, puppet masters. Of course, if you walk into a church and tell a pastor that today, he's going to want you to leave and he's going to be highly insulted.
He'll call the bouncer.
I'll tell you the truth. I wouldn't want to start an argument with a pastor today over something like that because, in all honesty, they think they're doing good. They don't know, what they're doing is wrong, and it's hard to get them to see it, but it doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them the enemy. It's their puppet masters that are the enemy, not them.
Well, if a pastor goes along with the clergy response team that the government has assembled and their 501(c) tax-exempt status...
Oh, I heard about that.
The threats that they hold over them, says, well, you're going to be out of a job. We're going to remove your tax exemption status. And they don't want that, so they go along, they get seduced. Seducing spirits of all kinds are very effective with souls that are unaware of what's going on, that are not really seeking the truth. They're content to go and warm the pew as an insurance policy that they're going to go to heaven and not go to hell. They may have a surprise coming, I don't know. because
Yeah, I'm
some
pretty
pastor will.
sure that a lot of people's going to have a surprise coming further down the road. I'm not so sure it's going to be as bad as, say, all of eternity in hell, but I don't think it can make it into a place called heaven without getting their dirty laundry cleaned up before they go.
Something like that, yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. But there will be pastors that will stand before Christ and they'll say, well, but Lord, did I not cast out demons in your name? And Christ will say, depart from me, I never knew you. Because, see, God looks on your heart. And Jesus also said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So Jesus is God.
Well, that's exactly
Even though
why I say I don't think God's going to want to, even if hell does exist, which I have reason to believe it does not, but even if it does, I don't believe that God would damn anybody in these churches to hell for being ignorant and trying to do what they thought his was will. He would look at their intent, and he'd maybe give them more time to get it right, but I don't think he would do anything drastic, in other words. It's the people higher up that are deliberately spreading false doctrine to the lower levels that would have more to worry about, if you ask me.
yeah, doctrines of devils.
You mean doctrines
Oh,
like
religious.
racism and bigotry and hatred and war?
Sexual perversion, that's widespread on this planet.
And I have seen time and time and time again cardinals going up in the news behind raping young boys.
Well, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church are Saturn worshipers, which brings us back to Saturn again.
Which Saturn's still sun worship.
They wear the colors. What's that?
And then Saturn's still sun worship.
Yeah, it's also Saturn worship. I mean, they have you look at all of the logos and icons and symbolism is big in the Illuminati, and they still have Saturday is Saturn Day, and Saturnalia, and I think it was Nero that had a cyclops that he enjoyed watching eat people live. I'm not concerned about saying things that are far out and hard to believe, because I know enough to know that this stuff happened. It's like all at this point, I believe that all legends and fairy tales are actually real. And if you get into Steve Quayle just wrote a book on the Wee People, and he's the one that's had the Book of Giants out for a long time. And
I'm familiar with Steve Quayle. He's got a lot of books out.
And I look at him again this morning. I try to do it every day. Look at Steve Quayle's website and his videos and articles, and then he's got a section over on the right that says alerts, and you go to that, and it's people that report in from all over the world, mostly the U.S., but things they've seen, like military convoys and anomalies and all kinds of stuff. It's just great reading, very informative, and I trust it. His wife gets up at 4 o'clock every morning and posts stuff.
Wow, I don't have anybody to post my stuff for me. I do all of mine by myself.
Yeah.
A lot of work involved in hosting a radio show, especially if you're like me and you do 3 of them a week.
Yeah. Yeah, Mona does 5 a week.
I used to do 4. I almost caught up with her. But now that I'm in and out of the hospital so much, it gets harder and harder to keep up.
Well, if you've got inflammation, I don't know, what did you get for your inflammation?
Well, he's going to start keeping me on prednisone here at home on a continual basis. Plus, I found a supplement from, I think it's Earthwell, turmeric cumin or something like that, that is supposed to be for antibacterial, antibiotic, anti-inflammatory. It's supposed to, take care of a lot of things, in other words.
If there's any way you can see fit to throw that
prednisone
from a doctor and the prednisone in the garbage, do so. My wife got curcumin 3000 from the Power Mall, Joyce Riley's little shopping network thing, and it worked for her. It really did. What did I say? Cumin 3000. It really works. It's all natural.
Never heard of it, but after the show's over, I plan to Google it. That's CUMMIN?
I believe it is. Not curcumin. Is it not curcumin? There's so many words that are similar.
Well, I know that I had friends ride me for years trying to convince me to use colloidal silver, and just by the
That's good.
by the name of it, I was afraid of it, and I didn't use it until finally Nighthawk convinced me it was okay, because he told me he had been using it for a couple of years, and I'm like, he doesn't seem to be any the worse for wear. Maybe it's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. I mean, the Royals have been using it for years, and that may have been one reason they call them blue bloods. Of course, your blood's blue until it's exposed to oxygen. But using silver they had a guy on, I forget if it was Oprah or whatever, a long time ago that finally died, but it may not have been because of the colloidal silver. It might have been just, but his skin was definitely blue because he was taking too much.
Well, now, what I heard happens is if you try to make colloidal silver at home and you don't use the right equipment and it don't break up the silver good enough, that's what causes the bluing.
Could be. I hadn't heard that.
They say if it gets mixed up real good, you use the right machines to make it, that it comes out okay and there's no problem with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're on it. I can't afford it.
Well, I'm not using much of it. I just use it basically 2 or 3 drops. Actually, 3 to 6 drops Wednesdays and Sundays, because that's what Nighthawk said he was doing, was taking it about twice a week in his inhaler. I use it as, inhale it in my nebulizer, just as a preventative thing of trying to keep my immune system up as much as possible. And also, if I have contracted a bacteria, maybe to kill it off before it gets too active in me.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
Makes it easier to afford, and it also keeps you from overdosing on it, in other words.
Gotcha. Good plan, Baron.
Well, I got it straight from Nighthawk, so I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing. I understand that his dad also has COPD, so I'm sure he's got some experience with it.
Uh-huh.
Also, if there's anybody listening to this show and you've had any problems with emphysema, bronchiectasis, Mycobacterium avium complex, which is MAC for short, any of those type of pseudomonas, pneumonia, as I find out stuff that's helpful and good for it, and I try it out myself, I'll try to share it here on the air. So if y'all need to use it, y'all have an idea what I'm using and how it's doing for me.
Way to be.
Well, I can only share what good it does for me, but, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of people out there that have COPD that could use the help, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I am serious, no idea how serious this disease was until I actually ended up in the 4th stage of it, and I realized how debilitating it is.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 trips of being in a coma was kind of convincing to me that it's a pretty serious problem.
Did you take any light tunnel trips in the coma?
If I did, they gave me something that made me forget.
Oh, wow.
I hear that when you're out like that, though, they do shoot you with stuff that'll make you forget what happened while you were out.
Boy, they're vaccine crazy, aren't they?
Well, they say that some things you don't want to remember. And that alone scares me.
Well, why? You got to ask yourself, why? Why? I mean, are you seeing angels and God, or are you seeing the false light and the false angels? Because they can pose as angels of light of God, but they're not. And
Christine said for asthma. I don't know if
Lucifer's a light bearer, Huh?
Christine said for asthma. I don't know if she's asking if colloidal silver works for asthma or exactly. Asthma is not exactly like a bacteria or anything that can be cured. It's just a lung condition, like a deterioration. So I'm pretty sure that colloidal silver wouldn't do anything for asthma.
Yeah, well, asthma in my travels, is caused by a lack of, a mineral deficiency. So getting your minerals in balance will probably eliminate that. And the other thing is eating local honey and staying away from refined sugar. The
You mean
frequency
if
of
you can
refined
afford
sugar.
to? That's expensive.
Well, I pay $15 for 3 pounds at the local honey stand, and that lasts a long time. Don't buy honey at the grocery store. It's just it's fake, flavored fake. It's not really honey. And even if it were real honey, if it's from Iowa, it doesn't do you any good where you live. You need local honey as close to you as you can, because they pollinate all the wildflowers that give you the immunity to these things.
She said she was giving her thoughts on the skull cap. That wasn't meant for us. My pardons.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've recently been finding out about COPD is you can do just as much to help yourself by what you eat as you can by taking any pills from any doctor or any apothecary or anywhere else, for that matter. There's many foods out there that have anti-inflammatory properties and have antibacterial properties and stuff of that nature. Like that turmeric cumin I said I started to take. That's a seasoning, actually, been used by Indians for years.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of things that are good for your lungs are greens. I mean, lettuce, tomatoes, spinach, collard greens, carrots, just average everyday food that everybody eats anyway. It's just that if you eat a little less corn, a little more pea, you'd help your lungs out a little more.
I think people know that corn doesn't really assimilate or dissolve.
I know that corn, if you don't have teeth, can be kind of hard to chew, even in the can, because it's so small it just slips under your gum, and instead of cutting or mashing, it just keeps squirting out, sliding out from under.
Right.
But it, corn serves its own purpose as well. But if anybody out there listening gets sick with anything, I would advise Googling foods that are good and seasonings that are good for your particular ailments. If it's lung, things that heavy in vitamin A would be good for you. I can't say about the liver. I haven't researched that yet. There's certain specific foods that are good for colitis. You can do just as much by changing your diet for your condition as you can going to a doctor who cannot cure you, can only treat you.
Yep. Like a cat when he does his business and covers it up.
Now, here there's also been a lot of talk on the web recently about hemp oil and its cancer-curing properties. Now, my son says that you have to actually get the cannabis oil, but I thought cannabis and hemp were the same thing.
Not exactly.
Oh, there is a difference?
Yeah, there's no cannabinoids in hemp, but it's still a great product for all kinds of things, for consuming, for protein, all those sorts of things. They don't want it legal because you'll get well, and the AMA and the pharmaceutical companies will go out of business.
Well, I think you hit the big nail on the big head when you said the pharmaceutical companies. They gain more than anybody gains out of this.
Well, they make so many billions of dollars a year on pharmaceuticals that probably do very little except cover up the symptoms.
That's not all they do. But you know what's even scarier than that for me? Is they probably make more of their money specifically off of psychotropic drugs more than they do antibiotics and other types of drugs.
Yeah.
And then you wonder about people killing each other, killing themselves, depression, road rage. Well, between people being discouraged from disciplining their kids and being encouraged to put them on these psychotropic drugs, what do you expect the next generation to end up like?
We can already see the evidence of that.
Yeah, we can see it because we're looking at the last generation's people that was on it that are now grown and see what it did for them.
Yeah.
My oldest son recently started dating a girl that he met on the internet, and he moved in with her. And I understand that she's got all kinds of mental ailments. And you talk to her, you can tell that she's not all together. She doesn't always. She has trouble processing what you say to her, for example, among other things. But I talked to this girl. I got to know her a little better. And she tells me that when she was 5 or 6 and went to the zoo with her dad, she wanted to go look at a particular animal, and he didn't want her to. And she kept insisting she was going to get her way. And his solution was to take her to see a psychiatrist who said she was oppositional defiant disorder and put her on medication. And then naturally, other ailments came up over time, like ADHD and what have you, to where now she's on so many medications for so many different disorders. It's no wonder she doesn't appear to be all there mentally. You have to wonder how much of that was the psychotropic drugs she's been taking since she was 6.
Well, all they care about is selling the drugs, you know.
And can you imagine taking somebody to see a psychiatrist because they wanted to get their way?
Well, psychiatry is a made-up science anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Jung and Freud were, oh, gosh, what our country is now. I can't think of that word either. The Romans were that way. Our El Duce, his government was called what is it? Help me out here.
I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for.
You know, all the sticks wrapped in a bundle with the axe head coming out of the side of it.
You used to see that a lot in Mexico. It had a symbolic meaning. I remember that. But what the mark stood for something symbolically. I know what you're talking about. We got a call coming in.
Is that her?
No. I want to take the call, but I don't see a place to add them to the group, and the show will be put on hold if I answer it.
Oh, wow. Shame.
Well, at least I won't lose. Well, never mind. I lost him.
All mental disorders are directly related to toxins. If you've got a toxic body and there's so many different toxins, you know, it's hard to separate them out or determine which they are. But if your brain is toxic, you're going to have mental disorders.
And of course, it's hard for your brain not to be toxic.
It's not easy.
It is hard for the brain not to be toxic, and here's why. At some point in time, when we started canning vegetables to sell on the market, they were being canned in chemicals. These chemicals have an effect over time on your brain.
That's right.
So naturally, when people start eating processed foods, it takes a toll, if not on the generation actually eating it, the next generation and the next generation, until you end up wondering what happened to everybody's minds.
Lights on, but nobody's home.
It's sad. It really is. And most people, they wouldn't believe it if you told them.
No. But I try to wake people. If I leave this house, I'm trying to wake somebody up wherever I go, and I'm having some success.
Well, I hate to do this to you, Doc. It sounds like they're interrupting us for break time. If you would, hang loose in the chat room in case my guests don't come back and I can't reach her.
Okay, just let me know in chat. I'll be listening.
Thanks, Doc.